dialogue here, I just want you to turn to your neighbor, the one you're sitting next to, and then ask the person what they dreamt about wanting to do with their life when you were 5 years old. So if you turn to your neighbor and just ask them, what was your dream of becoming when you were 5 years old? Give yourself 1 minute and turn to your neighbor. Okay, and I see we have the gentleman with the microphones. So maybe we can just pass around and just hear the answers of what you dreamt about being when you were 5 years old. If you can please use the microphone.
What's the dream when you were 5 years old? When I was 5 years old, I always wanted to be a police officer. And my friend to the left of me, she said that she wanted to be prime minister. Two of my gens at the left and right, they just wanted to grow up.
Very good.
They just wanted to grow up. When I was 5 years old, I wanted to become a lawyer.
To become a lawyer?
Yeah.
Very good.
When I was 5 years old, I wanted to become actress.
Actress.
When I was 5 years old, I think like I don't have any ambition. I just want to grow up. I don't remember actress. Hello. When I was 5 years old, I dreamed of becoming a teacher.
A teacher. Wonderful.
When I was 5 years old, I don't remember exactly what I wanted to be in the future. But I remember when I started my pre-primary school, I always wanted to be engineer, doctor. That time it was very popular. So everyone copy each other. When one my friend says, for example, like my friend want to become a teacher, then we say want to become a teacher. If my friend says she wanted to be a doctor, then we repeat that. We copy that saying we wanted to be a doctor. So that's normal.
Great, thank you so much. And the table in the back.
When I was 5 years, I wanted to become pilot. When I was 5 years, I had no ambition as such.
Okay. Fair.
When I was 5 years old, I wanted to become doctor.
A doctor. Many doctors in the room. Wonderful.
When I was 5 years old, I was so tiny, and my parents always used to tell me that you have to be a strong woman and you have to eat nicely. So my parents used to ask me what I want to become in future. So I always say I want to become a doctor. But currently, when I take my ambitions of I dream of my early age, that nowhere I'm going to do.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Hello. Hello. When I was 5 years old, I didn't think about earning or money or whatever it is. So I always wanted to become a princess, like Cinderella, all the stories that I watched. So I never thought of earning and filling up my stomach. The only thing I thought about was all those fairy tales and then Disney diamonds and all. So I always wanted to become a princess. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think you can still become a princess one day.
Hello. Can you hear me? Hello.
Hello.
So when I was 5 years old, I wanted to grow up and become an adult.
To become an adult. Well, that's was a good plan.
That's all.
And we have in the back of the room, did we get the last participants?
Let's ask the ECB officers.
Hello, good morning to you all. My name is Ugen and I'm from ECB. Honestly speaking, I don't remember what I wanted to become when I was 5 years old. But
Okay.
if I remember in my pre-primary school, I wanted to become a teacher. Because like one of my friends shared, teachers and doctors were popular at that time. So I wanted to become a teacher.
Very good. Thank you.
Hello, good morning. My name is Chimezaumo from ECB. When I was 5 years old, I don't think I don't remember what I have came to be.
That's okay.
Good morning. I'm Prema Shutub and I'm working in ECB. And I'm not remember exactly about my career progression, but when I sense, I think I should become somebody else. I don't have a purpose that time.
Thank you so much. And so many wonderful aspirations and dreams you had. And I hope you will continue having those the rest of your lives. You're just in your beginning of your political career. And that's wonderful. And since we now have two experienced politicians with us here, we have Kathrine and we have Rasmus, I also want to ask them the same question before we get into the discussion. So Kathrine, tell me, what did you dream about becoming when you were 5 years old?
It's a very fair question, Lisbeth, and good morning to everyone. When I was 5 years old, I just wanted to be the owner of a sanctuary for dogs and cats, because I loved cats and dogs so much and I wanted to take care of them. So you can have that sort of aspiration and still become a politician.
Wonderful story. And Rasmus, what did you dream about becoming when you were 5 years old?
Well, good morning to all. Well, I had the dream of becoming a fashion designer from when I was 5 years old. And I've been working in the fashion industry until I ran for election and became a parliamentarian. So the road to politics can go through both dog sanctuaries and fashion design.
Wonderful. So welcome to both of you, Kathrine and Rasmus. I'm very happy to have you with us today. We have in front of us these wonderful young women sitting in the same room in Bhutan. As you can see, we are in our different locations, and that's the conditions we work under here in Denmark during to the COVID situation. But we are with you in the heart, and we hope to have a great time together now. We have Rasmus, you've been in the parliament for approximately 6 years. And Kathrine, a little bit less, around 2 years for you, but you both have a long history of being engaged in politics. And I think it would be nice for our participants in Bhutan to hear a little bit about your background. You both have worked in many different positions within culture, fashion, design, and so on. But let's give our participants in Bhutan a little bit of your background and story of how you ended up sitting now in the parliament. Kathrine, would you like to give a bit of your background and introduction to your way to the parliament?
Yes, my background story is that I'm 48 years old, and until I entered parliament, I worked for many years as a headmaster of a school for students who wanted to become actors and singers and writers and artists. And before that, I also was a trainer of teachers. So that would be, maybe in your context, it would be the teacher training program at university. I was a professor there. So I've been a teacher for many, many years and working with young people. I'm part of the program that DIPD has in Nepal. And I think that's also one of the reasons why I was invited today, that I'm active in training young people like yourselves in Nepal. My family background is that I am currently unmarried, as we say in the West, and I do not have any children, which is also, I think, one of the things as a woman you have to ask yourself. I know that many of my colleagues, they have actively chosen politics over children, but both can be done if you actively work for it. But that's another discussion that we may have, because we've had many discussions and legislations about this in Denmark over many years. So today, many women in politics have children. It's totally possible. Anyways, that's a short intro from me. I think that Lisbeth is gonna ask us some very hard questions. So I'll just relax for a moment and let Rasmus do his job.
Thank you so much, Kathrine. And yes, Rasmus, do give us a bit of background of your way and into the parliament and the different jobs and positions you have held.
Well, I'm Rasmus, and I'm 45 years old. I'm married and live with my husband Nikolai here in Copenhagen. We don't have any kids either. And as I said, my background is from fashion design, and I've been working in fashion both here in Denmark, but also in the UK, in Germany, and in France. And never thought I would do anything like what I'm doing now. But back in 2013, I was sitting with a group of friends and thinking that not enough is being done politically. When we looked at the Danish parliament, we said, okay, what is happening? Why is nobody acting on the climate crisis enough? Why is nobody acting on the inequality crisis and so forth? So we started a party here in Denmark, and all of a sudden in 2015, I was elected to parliament. So it has never been a plan of mine to do what I do now, but I wouldn't change it for a million right now, because it gives so much energy to be part of changing the world for a better place. So the background is very unique in the way I don't know any other fashion designers in parliament right now in Denmark or on Europe actually. But it also proves, also as Kathrine, that we come from so many different backgrounds. Politics is not about an education. It's more a vocation to work as a legislator to make a better society.
Thank you so much, Rasmus. And I hope that gave you, dear participants in Bhutan, a little bit of understanding for Kathrine and Rasmus, who are with us the next hour. And please think about questions you would like to ask them. And I think both Kathrine and Rasmus are up for all kinds of questions, big or small, related to their political engagement, to their life as such, their way into parliament, and what have made them successful in their political career. So think about some questions while I ask them some more, and then we will also give time for you to ask them questions or come with comments to them. Rasmus, you have, as you said, you've been in fashion design, something totally different, but you've been engaged in society and you saw things around you and you reacted particularly to the climate situation and the concerns for the future of the planet, I presume. But your way into a political party must have been quite a difference from the life and the experience you had to suddenly be in a political party, to follow those structures and so on. I know you engaged in a new political party who were somewhat different from the more traditional parties, but still a political parties with some frames, with some limitations, some structures. How did you find your way in that, and how did you develop yourself as a politician?
I mean, as I said, it was a very short time from when we start thinking about it. And I was elected in 2015. It was only 2 years time. So I would say there was not many reflection when I entered parliament. It was really a shock treatment to come in and all of a sudden be part of this structure. But my party, I mean, my background is also, I mean, I see myself as an activist. I've been an activist my whole life. I've been engaged in the world. When I was a kid, it was through Greenpeace. Later on, politically, I was, I mean, an activist in my work as well with fashion to make better production places and look at workers' rights and environmental protection through that. But all of a sudden, the party structure, of course, is something where you have to agree. You have to sit down and find solutions together, just as you do in any other place in society and any other workplace. But in a party, it's also a question about being able to have disagreements in a nice way. And I think that was the most difficult part for me when sitting with people I thought I was agreeing with 100%, finding out there are things we don't agree on totally, and be able to hold that disagreement with respect for each other and the work we're doing. That has been perhaps the hard thing, but also a great learning for when you then sit and talk to political opponents, people from other parties, that you can have a disagreement in a respectful way.
Certainly. And Kathrine, for you also, with your background, you worked with education, you worked with young people. What made you turn into saying, because I think you probably did a lot of good and a lot of change for young people in your previous positions. What made you think that you could now change the situation politically by becoming a member of the parliament?
Well, I became a member of the Social Liberal Party of Denmark in 2015, so it's not that many years ago. I'm one of the new members. I didn't grow up in any kind of youth organization of the party. But basically, what happened was that I got really tired of shouting at my television. And if you maybe, since you all have this political interest, when you read a newspaper headline or you hear politicians on the radio, you just think, you know, how can they reach that conclusion? How can they be so stupid? I think this is a very general global feeling that when you disagree with somebody, you just start reacting. And I think that's what all of you do since you are sitting here. You are reacting to a current political situation, which is a very, very sound and good first step. So that kind of energy and that kind of fuel can bring you very, very far. And so I joined since in our country we had a very strong national conservative right-wing movement in 2015, where one quarter of all votes in my area, which is a rural area, they voted for this national conservative, very right-wing party. That just made me sort of super depressed. So first of all, joining a political party was actually my kind of medicine against depression, a very personal thing. But later on, I found out that I had a talent for politics when I started becoming active and talking to other members of the party. And I very, very quickly ran for election, both locally and nationally, and joined in the first stroke the national parliament. So that's my way into politics. And I was fighting for, because my rural area, as many other rural areas, both in Bhutan and Nepal, have the same kind of structural problems. People are lacking education. Children leave school, even in Denmark. 1 in 5 children in school, they leave school without being able to read, write, and do math. Even in a country where education and schools are free and there's a mandatory school, 1 in 5 leave school without being able to read, write, and do math. That's insane. So my drive into politics was, how can we change this? Because this is especially something that is a very rural problem, mainly, and that So the educational lab or gap of Denmark, and also of course climate, as is also Rasmus's very strong matter, is what brought me to politics. So those two, and then just, you know, because my family and my friends, they started getting tired of hearing me shout at the television. So they, why don't you just join politics, Kathrine? Because then we can, you know, you can do your hobby then and just leave us alone and give us some peace. I think that's a good idea. I will join politics where people that actually are interested in what I have to say. So that's how it happened. Yes.
Great. Thank you so much, Kathrine. And let me just follow up with a question. You knew exactly which party then to go to or to engage with when you thought that you wanted to stop shouting at the TV. Did you know that by heart, or did you look at different political parties, or what's the story of being connected to the Social Liberal Party?
I think I always voted for the Social Liberal Party, maybe with one or two exceptions through my life. I've had a semi-long life, so with one or two exceptions, I voted for the Social Liberal Party always. And you know, you just add up all the values and all the hard matters of the party, and you say, okay, so this is the party that I disagree with the least. So this is kind of, and so when you meet up, I think that many of you also have found out that when you meet all your new friends from the party that you have joined, that it very often feels like joining a family that you didn't know you have. And I'm totally sure that Rasmus has had the same experience through his political life in both rounds, Rasmus, so that you meet people you didn't know that you really care about. So that's that has been a very, very good thing about politics. I've become I've had a new family, almost it feels like, and a huge group of new friends. So that's totally amazing. That's one of the good things about politics.
Certainly. And Rasmus, would you also say that you met a new family of friends that you didn't know you had?
Yes, I do. I mean, my story is also, Katrina was mentioning a bit now that in 2013 I was part of this group starting a new party, and maybe that's also because I'm a bit of a rebel by heart. I mean, I like to go in and create something new instead of just jumping on board what existing. But since then, 1 year ago, I actually left that party I was part of initiating and joined the Socialist People's Party instead. And that's also because it's been a journey for me to work with politics. I mean, from going in, creating a party with ideas and pushing for agendas, and now sitting in Parliament, I also want to see some results. And I went in where I can see, okay, if I want to change the world, if I want to have the sustainable change of our society, then I will go into a structure which exists, which was then the Socialist People's Party. And as Kathrine said, it is when you join a political family like a party is, you get some strong connection. And it can be hard also to break those connections. Because you work so much together. There's so much passion in it for all of us. I'm sure you know that as well when we engage in politics. So it's a lot of emotions as well. Politics is not only going on in the head, it's also indeed, if not by most, in the heart.
Certainly. And now I'm looking out into the room in Bhutan, and I'm thinking that you surely have some questions for Kathrine and Rasmus. And we have a microphone ready, I think, so we can get it, so we can hear.
Am I audible to you?
Yes, hello.
Good morning. So I have a question for Kathrine. Like you wanted to start an animal sanctuary, but then you became headmaster or mentor for actresses, dancers, singers, and now you're a politician. So when looking at you, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's so cool. I just want to be like her. But how? So not the road that, it must have been a hurdle, no? You had to tackle to get to where you are today. It must have been so hard to earn a seat in a parliament among so many gents. So my question is, what are the pertinent difficulties or barriers faced by women in Denmark to be a member of a parliament?
Thank you so much, and a very good question. Did you finish the question?
Yes.
Yes. So, And I guess you are asking Kathrine, but I think it would be interesting also to get Rasmus's view on the challenges of women engaging in politics. Kathrine, you want to start off?
Yes, it's a super good question. Even in Denmark, as you probably know, we have only 1/3 women represented in national parliament. So there is clearly still a glass ceiling in politics for women, for minority groups as such, even also. So what to do? And I think that one of the things I wanted to mention to you today, so that we can talk about this a little bit more openly, is the debate culture and the relationship between politicians or politics and media. Because we have like two kind of cultures, two kind of, how do you say, there are two kinds of like mainstream cultures that kind of go against women running for office. And one of them is the debate culture. I know that in your country, the debate culture has a very much, it's not particularly democratic. It has a lot to do with normally a man, an older man, maybe 60 years plus. He will enter the speaker's chair, and he will like give a speech that lasts maybe something like anywhere between 20 minutes and half an hour. And then he will leave and not take questions, or this is, I know, I'm guessing, maybe Bhutan has worked with the debate culture, I don't know. But in Denmark, it has the same kind of structure that the debate culture is very much not about talking with each other. It's very much about delivering your own paroles, delivering your own opinions, and then just kind of more or less enter into a verbal fight. And that is very, very clearly when you go to when you see the parallel in the media, that the media will always be looking for a conflict. They will always be looking for a populist or a controversial suggestion from a politician. Just think about yourself. If you have many of you probably have a very sensible mother back home. She will always know what to do, but does she ever enter the media or tell the nation what would be the sensible thing to do? No. The people who reach the media and the people who reach the radio are always the ones with the most controversial or populist ideas. This is just by nature not a place for women. They don't feel attracted to this, but they will just sit at home and think, this politician, he sounds very, if this is politics, then I don't know anything about politics, because this just sounds stupid or a little bit like populist, or I don't want to get into a fight. I don't want to be shouted at. I don't want to be diminished. I don't want anybody to tell me that I cannot do this, or that I'm stupid, or that I don't understand anything. So women have a whole different way of talking to each other. If you listen to a conversation between women, their goal will always, very often, there are a lot of like people who don't do this, or a lot of women who don't do this because they're well-trained politicians. But if you just listen to women, just between you and your girlfriends, you'll always try to reach a compromise or some sort of common understanding. So in my mind, world politics would be much better off if you just put women in charge, because the men will always be this. I know this is a very, very, I know that there are a lot of women also in Denmark who will seek conflict because they know how the media works, and they know how to fish for votes, and they know how to run for populist opinions. This is so they will. So it's just a game that does not attract a lot of women, I think. Some of the huge parties in Denmark have very big problems recruiting women, because there's a lot of sexism within the party. We just had a huge uncovering of the level of sexism in Danish parties. And it's very, very clear that it exists in all parties. This is also one of the reasons why women, they stay away. So it's the debate culture. It's what you experience on social media. If you run as a woman, you will have all the comments will very, very often attack your gender and not what you're saying or the content of your political message, but will attack your gender. So all these things you have to like put on Teflon. You have to like cover yourself and think that you're just some sort of robot machine. If you can, like as a person, even handle this. I think that's when I ask my friends around why they don't go into politics, that's what they say is the main reason, that they cannot handle the level of conflict and the tone of the debates. So that's a personal opinion on my part.
Yeah, and we are here to listen to your experience and opinions. So thank you for being open and honest. And certainly, I think there is a lot about the culture, the way we debate politics or think we need to discuss politics. I'm sure, Rasmus, you also have some reflections and your own experience of the challenges and link it to when you see your female colleagues struggling.
Well, I'm in a party group. Socialist People's Party have 15 seats in parliament, and actually it's 11 women and only 4 men. So it's a quite unique political party group in a parliament. But it's not something that comes out of its own. I think if we actually agree that we want equal representation, we need to do the work that goes to get there. I think Kathrine had some very important points about the whole culture in politics, which is really only for a certain kind of people, but it's also about actually taking care of each other. And I was part of a campaign that was in France a few years back, which were called Never Without Her, which actually was about that when you watch television, if you go to debates around, it's always the same kind of people there. It's normally men around their 50s. So this campaign was about saying if you are to join a debate somewhere, there has to be a woman represented. So we get female voices out there, because quite often when you see how debates are recruited or how people are invited into television, people are taking the people they're used to inviting. So to break that door down and get some new faces in, and that goes for the equal representation of women, but it also goes, as Kathrine said, for minority groups, because it's tough to be in politics. I mean, I don't have this Teflon that Kathrine is talking about. I mean, for me, it hurts me every time I get these very hateful emails as I'm getting because of my sexual orientation, because I'm a homosexual man. Instead of people writing about my politics, I get hate messages on my person. But I can see from my female colleagues that the amount of hate mails and the wording in them they get is even tougher. And I know it's hard to handle for me. So to watch what they're getting is really bad. So I think it's about taking it serious within political parties that take care of each other. I mean, reach out to each other and talk about it. And then also this about for men to actually remember to take a woman by your hand when you go somewhere and say we need the representation. Perhaps even take a step back and let somebody else step up in front of you. And I've said no to fantastic television debates because I didn't like the way a panel was invited, because there was no women. I said, this kind of debates, there has to be some kind of representation. So yes, it's about actually being aware of where's my privilege stepping in, and where is there a need of giving somebody else a part of these privileges.
Thank you so much, Rasmus. And yes, certainly, I think we can agree that conflicts does not necessarily lead to something very constructive. Yes, we have conflicts in our lives. If we keep them at a constructive level where we have a dialogue, we get much further, and we can all relate to it. If we have private quarrels or discussions or conflicts in our families, with our partners, it's not a nice feeling, and it often doesn't go well unless we find a compromise and that we have a constructive dialogue. And you, as young female politicians, you have the possibility, hopefully you will be successful in your election campaigns, to bring in a new culture of dialogue, of constructive conversation, because I think only there we can come further with our politics and creating better societies. But it has been a culture for a long time, at least in certain parts of the country world, to have this very conflictual conversation. But I'm not sure that it really gets us where we want to go. I'm sure there are more questions in the room from our young female politicians. Are you ready to ask another question?
Yes. Good morning. Me as a mother, I'm quite excited to know in Denmark that you must be having a baby, breastfeeding baby, doing a campaign, maybe you have a kid who's going to school. So really how you manage that, your campaign and your household, that is number one question. And number two, as a mother, how did you manage to overcome your male counterpart?
Sorry, the last question, as a mother, how did you overcome?
Yeah, overcome your male counterpart, male contestant. Yeah.
How to compete with the male politicians? Okay, a very good question. And I think we can talk about a bit general here about the Danish welfare system and how our society has built up to try and foster equality and equal opportunities for men and women. Kathrine, you want to say a bit about the structural aspects that we have in trying to also promote women in general in our society and also in politics?
Yes, we have, first of all, we have by law maternal leave also for politicians, meaning that if you have a child while in parliament, you get a, because I didn't have children, can I remember Lisbeth, what is it, 6 months? It's a year?
It's up to a year.
Rasmus is nodding, yeah, it's up to a year, thank you very much. So up to a year's maternal leave, where then a substitute will enter parliament, which was, somebody who didn't get elected, but like is in next in line, will then substitute for you for a period of time. And that maternal leave is a general law for all working women in Denmark. We have a very high rate of women in the work market. But we also have a lot of inequality economically in Denmark. I won't get into that because that would be a long lecture. But when it comes to how to compete with men, I think that you should compete on, which is the same thing that I told people in Nepal. When you look at the rate of people who are on social media, that's your own platform, and that's a platform for younger people. So you should really use social media and you should talk sense, because a lot of people, they like politicians who are sensible and logical and also have a huge heart, but more or less sound like a normal person. So you should not compete in popularity, in populism. You should not compete in who can shout the loudest. I think you should compete in being yourselves. Compete in being the sensible woman, man that you are. Stand on your own 2 feet. Never forget why you entered politics. Never say no to any kind of corruption, which is really hard in your part of the world. But being the politician who never, who's not being tempted by any kind of corrupt attempts or corruption attempts, will bring you far. That will be a great rumor that will get you very far in politics in the long run. Maybe in the short run, not, but in the long run it will. So stand by yourself and just be sensible and normal. Maybe it will not bring you, give you headlines in the news, because the news still will bring populism, but then you have social media, and social media is your own very platform, and you should build social media because there's a lot of voters there. So many young voters, and it's the young voters, young people should vote for young people. Why doesn't young people have why don't they have the right to representation in parliament? Of course you do. Why is there like some sort of natural law that only men over 60 they have the right to enter parliament? You know, you should also, of course, respect for older people and all that. I'm all for it. I'm 48. I think everybody should respect me, but not for that, not for being old, but for being sensible and normal and standing on my 2 feet and being honest. And that's how you reach respect. And you might as well get that respect at 20 as you can get that respect at 60. So go for it, ladies.
Very good, a clear recommendation there. May I just add before I give the word to Rasmus that the Danish society has been structured with a welfare system where we have nurseries and kindergartens, and which supplies the facility for women to join the workforce and to leave their homes and to contribute and make an earning and therefore have their own independent income. I think that's an important fundament. It's taken many, many years for our society to get there. And the other part that I know from female politicians around the world is that you need to agree within the family. You need to have your husband supporting you if you run for elections. To have that family structure is very, very important. And I'm sure you who raised the question as a mother, I'm sure you've been discussing that in your family. You need your family to support you. That's been one of the most important aspects that women politicians have said, that I could only go so far if my husband, if my family is behind me. So that's, I think, is also an important point. Rasmus, you want to add a bit on the on what creates family structures so that women can engage actively in politics?
Yes, but I want to go back to this maternity leave we were talking about before, that this in Denmark you have the right to 12 months to share between the father and the mother. And actually in the Danish parliament, I know a lot of men politicians who have taken paternal leave, who have left parliament for 3, 4, 5 or 6 months to be with their kids. And then a substitute is stepping in. And even our Minister of Finance had a paternal leave when he had a kid not too long ago. So it's also about changing a culture where it's okay for men also to step out of a position to take care of the small kids and perhaps then let the mother go to work. But another thing I think is important is especially when we look at local politics in Denmark, when we look at representation on the local level, it's even worse when it comes to the equal representation. We have even fewer women there in percentages than what we have on national politics. So it's also about how do we organize the work in politics. And I think this is a shout out you should give to the men in your political parties as well, is how can we organize the political work so it actually works with having a family, so it works with having small kids, because I wouldn't have a parliament where nobody has kids or where everybody is old or everybody is young. I mean, parliamentarian system and democracy is about representation, and we should represent the people of the society. And there you cannot have meetings every night till very late, because you need to be home with your kids sometimes. You need to eat with your family. You need to have friends as well. So how can we organize meetings and work in a better way? And you should demand that when you're running and saying, no, I cannot be sitting in political meetings every night when I have to be with my kids. Sometimes we have to do it in the morning instead, or we have to do it in other ways. And I think that is something we should be better doing here in Denmark as well when it comes, because local political meetings is very often every night, starting at 6 o'clock when people with kids need to have their dinner or put their kids to sleep or whatever. So how can we organize so it fits the reality of your everyday life? That's a question you should raise and also demand and saying we can do this better so we can all be here.
Yes, certainly. And if I may ask back to the last woman who asked the very relevant question, let me ask you, how are you coping with being a mother and engaging in politics?
Now, as per my experience, me as a mother, actually exclusive 2 years breastfeeding is very important. So I had to leave my baby at home with my mom. So it was very challenging for me to do a campaigning, because if I do a campaigning, I have to carry my baby. So no babysitters, no one was turning up to look after my baby. So I had to leave him with my mom, and I had to go all alone doing campaign. So it was very tough. And actually, I wanted to know that how you manage, whether you take baby along with you during the campaign, or you keep your baby at home, or you take babysitter along with you. So that is what I wanted to know actually.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Do you get additional compensation or allowance for the babysitter in Denmark?
Yes, I mean, a very relevant and practical question. How do you do when you cope with having small children and going on election campaigns? I think one thing is to mention that Denmark is a small country. So we don't live that far from each other. And most meetings you can have within the vicinity of your hometown or your city and return. However, you will still be needing to travel around. And I think I'm speaking general, and then of course Kathrine and Rasmus can put in. People find different solutions. Some will bring their baby to the meetings, to their campaigns. Some will leave them home with their family. Some have a husband who can take care, some don't, so they will have to find a grandmother or a grandfather to assist them. I think there are many different ways that people try to find a solution when they are running as for a political career. Of course, in general, it's difficult for young women with small children as such. And I think we have a democratic challenge also in Denmark in general, that people are not that interested in becoming member of a political party. We have 3.5% to 4% of the Danish population is member of a political party. That is a very, very little amount of our population who's just a member. And then from those, you will have those that stand for elections, either local elections, regional or national elections. So certainly there is a challenge, but people find solutions, practical solutions, and you have apparently also managed to do that, and will hopefully manage to do that in the future as well. I don't know, Kathrine or Rasmus, if you want to add to this, or we should go to next question. Rasmus?
No, but I just want to give you an example, because actually I was running in 15 for election, and one of the other candidates was from Katrine's party, another member of parliament, Zenia Stampe, and she had just given birth when the election was being called. So she had the baby with her, and sometimes she had to step down from the podium when the debate, when there was something, or else her husband was along and helping out. So that was the way she was solving it. Others are doing other ways. But I think also, I mean, one thing is the campaign, something else is when you then get elected, because I'm sure you're going to get fantastic election results, all of you in the room. Then how to manage the political work with having small kids. I mean, it is a challenge. I know from my colleagues, really a challenge to manage it all. It's easier for me not having kids, but still I also have a family I have to spend time with. And it's difficult in politics. So maybe also make it work in parliament, that maybe there should be some kind of childcare within parliament, so you can have your kids looked after when there's meetings. So I think it's about how can we actually create frames within the political work that matches the everyday life that politicians who are people, is living, instead of trying for us to fit into a little frame of how politics used to be when it was only older men in politics. So also I think one thing is the political debate, but another thing is demand that it's organized in a way so it fits with your everyday life.
Very good point. I think I want to move on there. I'm sure there are more questions in the room. I think there's a good appetite to ask Rasmus and Kathrine questions.
First, you talk, then I'll come back to you.
Hello, my question is like, could you share an incident or experience where you had to convince a group or a community of hardcore voters who were always against you and are unwilling to vote for you like forever?
I'm not sure I got the question. Could you just repeat it? Maybe put the microphone a little bit closer.
Could you share an incident or experience where you had to convince a group or a community of hardcore voters who were always against you and are unwilling to vote for you like forever?
Okay.
Those who don't like you at all.
That's a good question. So, Kathrine and Rasmus, did you get the question of how can you convince a group of voters who are against you or do not share the same opinion? How do you get them? How do you have a dialogue and convince them of your stand? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Kathrine, you want to give it a go?
Well, I think that you should think about how to spend your time best. Some people who are you could say, some people are just so far from your standpoint that it will just be a waste of time trying to convince them. You should spend your time trying to either convince the voters that you know are voting for your party to vote on you specifically, or the flip voters, those who are in doubt and who are maybe leaning to neighboring parties or something like that. You should try and get those people to vote for you, because if they're just very far from your spectrum, it would be like me trying to convince some national conservative voter to vote for the Social Liberal Party, which is the party furthest away from their voters. So it would be a very huge challenge, and maybe it's just a waste of time for one voter. But it would be more or less the same advice than before. If you stand both on your 2 feet, don't lose yourself. Use the arguments that you believe in your heart and in your head are the right ones. Then a debate, you can also win a debate by just sounding sensible, because if everybody else in a panel debate, they are shouting, then you can be the one, going with a parental voice saying, listen guys, maybe we should just take it easy and listen to what this person is asking. Just be the one who stands out, because if everybody else stands out, or if everybody else shouts, then you can stand out by sounding grown up, normal, calm voice. And for women, which is I think we talked about just in the beginning, this thing about having a low voice, having a voice that sounds male, is unfortunately just as huge an advantage in Bhutan as it is in Denmark. Women politicians here, they train their voices to go low, which is in itself a little fucked up. Sorry, my French, but it is, because we don't regard a high-pitched voice as being reasonable or clever or whatever. It's kind of like a little girl's voice. So there are a lot of techniques that you can use: body language, voice, sounding, just like go low when everybody else goes high. All these tips and tricks, but don't waste your time on the ones who are too far away from your own standpoint. It's a waste of time.
Very good point. And I think also if you are we're meeting someone who totally disagree with you, respect that as well. Say, okay, that's fair. We cannot agree on everything, From that starting point, you already leveled, de-escalated the possible conflict between you. But Rasmus, I'm sure you also have experience of how you are in your daily work and every day trying to convince either voters or politicians, colleagues, for your points of view.
I think I mean, probably Kathrine is more clever than I am, because I always go for the people who is most impossible to convince, because I think that's also a part of my job as politician. I think it's a lot about listening to people, not trying to convince people, but first of all, listen to people, listen to the challenges they're facing, listen to how they see problems. So use your empathy to understand them, and then come with your opinion. And actually being able again to disagree is a good thing, but listen is one of my I mean, I have come the furthest with. I mean, I remember standing in very rural area in a village, and nobody was voting for a guy like me there. I can assure you, but they were quite impressed that I actually went down there, and I was there the whole day, and I listened to what they were facing of challenges. So I actually got some voices down there, because people could all of a sudden see a politician who took them serious. And I think it's about that, to take people serious where they are. Don't necessarily try and convince them, but listen to their problems, take it serious, and say what your answers are.
Can I just confirm Rasmus's experience? Because I also had that very interesting experience a couple of times, that if you just listen and you don't argue with them, you just nod and say, yes, I understand. I'm sorry, but they will feel themselves being heard, and they will experience a politician, as Rasmus say, that listens to them, and that will make them vote for you, even if you don't even if they disagree with you. So actually hearing, yeah, that is I think that's a very the gap between voters and politicians is kind of diminished when you do that. So Rasmus is absolutely totally right. Listening is actually the best thing you can do as a politician.
That's also where you learn.
Great, and that's why we say we have one mouth and we have two ears. So we put the ears ahead. Do we have more questions now, or we need in a small tea break? What's the sense in the room?
We still have some time for question and answer.
We certainly have. We can also have a short break and then come back. But
okay, so I'll just see whether there any question you wanted to ask me.
I'm sorry, I'm coming up again and again. My question is, in Bhutan, all civil servants are apolitical.
Can you keep the microphone a bit closer?
Okay, in Bhutan, all the civil servants are apolitical, and my husband is civil servant, and he really wants to accompany me during campaign, but he can't. He's apolitical. And we wanted to know in Denmark, is there certain rules or regulations regarding civil servant, or whether the wife, when the wife goes for campaign, her husband is allowed to do a campaign for her or not?
The rules for campaigning?
Yeah. In Denmark, is there any rules like a political that civil servant is not allowed to do campaign for her wife, her husband, like his wife?
So you're asking if the husband can do campaigning for the wife?
A civil servant in Denmark can do a campaign for his wife.
To clear, here in Bhutan, all the civil service, those who work for the government, are apolitical, and they are not allowed to go with the politicians during campaign. So is there any such system in Denmark? Or if the husband of a politician is a government or the civil servant, can he go with his wife for campaigning? This is the question.
Yeah. Thank you. Kathrine or Rasmus, do you want to answer about the regulations on campaigning? Kathrine?
Yeah, I was a civil servant for many years. Also while running, I had a leading position as a headmaster of a school. And there was absolutely no problem. I even had colleagues cheering for me and even helping me in the campaign because they were friends. Also at that time, I had a boyfriend, and he had children from a former marriage. Everybody helped, hanging up posters, doing videos, doing social media, you know, so there were no rules in that sense. And I think it's I'm sorry to say, but that's a huge problem if you have a huge population group who are not allowed to run for public office because they are publicly employed or being civil servants. That would be, yeah, that would be a huge problem in Denmark anyway. You would very, very soon have a very small group of people being able to run.
Yeah, but that is the regulation for Bhutan at the moment. Rasmus, do you want to add anything on the campaigning?
No, but again, I mean, no politician can do the work alone. So you need help, and if the rules are that your husband cannot help you, I mean, reach out to friends and other parts of family, because I think Kathrine will agree with me, as we just heard, your boyfriend, his kids and friends are helping with campaign. Politics is not a one woman's job. It's a joint effort, and you need people around you to help you. You cannot do it alone. I didn't do it alone. Kathrine did not do it alone. You need support from people around you, and if the laws and rules are that your husband is not allowed to, then you need to reach out to other people who can help you, because it's not possible to do on your own.
So can we, that's correct. So if your husband works in the public sector in Bhutan, they're not able to engage in the political campaign. So that does give you some limitations, and unfortunately that is something to be dealt with in the Bhutanese legislation, maybe for the future. I wanted to ask in the among our audience in Bhutan, what made you enter into politics? What was the passion you found? Can we have a few examples from you young women? What made you enter, despite all the challenges we talked about, and there are probably many more? Let us hear some of the inspiring stories of why you are here today, why you are engaging in politics. I think that would be very interesting for all of us. Do we have someone volunteering to tell us a bit about their story?
What inspired you to become a politician? Anyone? Anyone wants to share?
What made you, we have someone in the back here, yes?
Hello. The main reason for participating in this program or participating in politics is to bring up new issues that our youth are facing nowadays. I believe that the youth issues are understandable by the youth only. So I thought that it would be helpful for the youth if we the young people join politics. And the other reason would be to inspire those young people out there to come up and speak what they feel and speak what they want, what change they want. Thank you.
So you want to be the voice of the youth? Being a young woman yourself, that's very inspirational. Can we hear a few other stories? And yes.
So today I'm here representing a political party from People's Democratic Party. And today I'm young, but I want to be a future politician. And I am very interested to be a politician. I'm willing to be one. And why I want to be. So this is the question you're asking, and thank you so much. So here's my answer. Because not today in our Buddhist context, in our society, there are only few women leaders. And we have only a handful of them. It's like a countable number of women leaders in my country. So they are the only ones where female, like people like us, like women like me, a girl like me can look up to them as our idol, as somebody, who we can look up to as our example. So I want to be the one. And when we have only few representation from women's side who are leading the authority, like in high authority who are leading the country, they know our society thinks that women are not capable enough. They are not strong enough to be a ruler. Like they are not as good as men. So they are not as strong as men. So I want to prove them wrong that women can be as good as men. They are so strong that I can do it. We can do it together. We can do it. And I want to be the voice for all the women out there who are in the hiding. Like they can express, they can come to the front. So, like each and every individual of us has unique voice to into the conversation. We can inspire. We can change the country. We can inspire some other young leaders, upcoming youths. I can that's why I want to prove all the women, all the men out there wrong that women can be as good as them, as strong as them, and we can be a ruler too. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think we need a clapping here. A very good point of being a role model. I think that is also very important. And I'm sure we all have role models. And while you are developing your new question for Kathrine and Rasmus, I'll ask Kathrine and Rasmus, who was your role model for engaging in politics? Kathrine, do you want to start off?
Do you want me to start off? Okay, so I think I have a lot of role models, but of course I have to mention being a social liberal. I don't know if this news has even reached Bhutan, but we have a very strong social liberal woman in the EU as a commissioner of competition. Her name is Margrethe Vestager. She is, I'm sorry to say, but she's a badass, and she has a way of arm wrestling big tech companies and tax avoidance and tax haven companies on a global scale that I am total fan of. So it's even so today, because we're in the same party. Sometimes when I meet her, because I meet her sometimes on a daily level. Actually, I'm going to a meeting tomorrow where she's attending physically. I still have so much. She's still such a role model for me that I'm too afraid to ask for a selfie, a selfie on the phone with her, because I'm such a fan that I become like totally blushed and like I'm still 12 years old. So I know I'm just a fan. So that's a Margrethe Vestager thing I've got going, and I'm sorry for confessing this, but so it is.
That's fine, Kathrine, but maybe a few more words on why you think she's a role model. What has she done?
Well, Margrethe Vestager, when it comes to women's liberation or women in politics, Margrethe has, for instance, she has a way of dressing, which I think is very interesting. Because when you enter politics as a woman, apart from lowering your voice, you will also have a tendency to power up, meaning that you have to, start dressing like a man, maybe with a jacket and like with broader shoulders in, or like trying to dress like with pants. But Margrethe Vestager, she's insisting on wearing dresses, and she even makes the dresses herself. She also knits every time she sits in a meeting with big tech companies or with the president of the European Union. When she just listens to everybody, she takes out her knitwear, like knitting, and she just sits there and knit. And she can just do this and just use women's symbols, dressing like a woman, making her own dresses, insisting on wearing dresses instead of power suiting. You know what I mean by power suiting? Like putting on like huge, dressing like a man. I think that's super inspiring. Also, she every time that in my party, Rasmus, he's talking a lot about this thing about taking into account every time that you go out as a man, you have to take a woman by the hand and introducing them. In my party, we're very bad at introducing or like pushing our women in front. But Margrethe, she has a way of, all the time, pointing out this, and when she takes the podium, ever since she was 25 years old, people, they just have a tendency of listening. She also used to be the political leader of the party here in the national parliament, and at that time she was a minister of finance back in 2012 to 2015. It was 2011 to 15. She was Minister of Finance. So there was also a tendency that men or that women do not become ministers of finance, because for me, for instance, I'm a speaker of tax in my party, but when I enter the committee of tax in the parliament, I'm the only woman there, which is interesting. So women are kind of not a part of all the power committees like tax and finance and employment. But women, there's like this tradition or this tendency that they kind of choose the others, or they are voted out or take the other committees like for school, children, education, culture, church, these things. But the very hardcore economic power areas are not theirs. But they were always Margrethes. She always chose those. And I find that super inspiring.
Thank you, Kathrine. Rasmus, who has been your role models through your political career?
Actually, there's I will mention two. One from my own party, and one from actually Kathrine's party. One unfortunately is dead now, but the other is still alive and indeed working hard. And it's Lone Dybkjær, who was a social liberal, member of the European Parliament, a member of the Danish Parliament, Ministry of Environment at a point. Unfortunately, she died, but she was a very close friend, because I was living in France and I moved back to Denmark, and I was looking around and said, what's going on here with the political life? And there was an election coming up, and I called up the Social Liberal Party and said, can I help with something in the election campaign, because we need somebody else in power? And it was Lone who picked up the phone, and I went in and met with her, and to see her in action, not speaking for herself, but all the time lending her voice to somebody else. I mean, she was a very strong and hard worker in equal rights, gender equal rights, but also from the point of view of men. She was actually fighting for men to get equal recognition as parent when there's a divorce, for example. So she always managed to take up fights for other people as well. The other one is Margrethe Auken, who is a member of the Socialist People's Party, like I am. She's a member of the European Parliament. And again, she's not talking for herself. She's all the time looking out and see who needs my voice as well. And she's not scared of using it, also when it's unpopular. And I think for me, that's a role model, to dare to step out of myself and fighting for something else.
Certainly. And among our participants, I'm sure you also have role models. Can you share a few examples of the role models in your lives?
Role models, your role models.
And let's hear someone new from the table closest to the door. Yes, those ladies over there. Just take the microphone. We won't bite you. Be okay. Do we have any role models you want to share? Your mother, your father, your uncle, your brother, someone in politics?
So it looks like no one wants to share right now, but since we have a few minutes, there's a question from
Okay, but I'm sure you have some role models within you, and maybe during the break you can think about them and reflect about what they have given you. Or if you don't have a role model, maybe to talk to your neighbor about, who would I like to have if I could choose a role model? Who would be good for me, supporting me where I am now, in what I would like to do in my life? Could I find someone who could support me, be my mentor, be my advisor? Think about that when you have your break.
Okay, so last question here.
We have a question. It doesn't have to be the last, but let's go.
The last, yeah, the last.
Good.
Hello once again. My question is, according to European Institute for Gender Equality, I believe that Denmark ranks in the second place with 77.4 out of 100. So I would like to ask, what were some of the gender equality policies that Denmark has implemented to come to rank in the second place?
So what have made Denmark develop and rank high on the gender equality index? Is that your question?
Yes.
I think there are many aspects here, but Rasmus, you want to start on what you think has made Denmark advanced?
I think actually it's a number of things. It's also a way of organizing society that we actually decided to create kindergartens. So women will no longer have to be staying at home with their kids, but could continue working. That was an important step. And then of course we have the equality laws that we have put in place. But I think a lot of gender equality has come in place because we have created structures in society that makes it possible for everybody to participate. And we still have, even though we're ranking good, I mean, we still have needs of doing more. I would like to see that also our paternal leave is actually equally divided between the man and the woman. So it's not only the woman taking 1 year off when a family has kids, but the woman is taking 6 months, the father is taking 6 months. So also there's a stronger bond and connection between father and child, but also so women is not away from workplace for so long time. But it's about creating and organizing your society, and I think that creating a welfare state where we had kindergarten so everybody could come out was a very important first step. Of course, you need equal representation and rights in all your laws. In Denmark also, we have to actually evaluate all laws the government is putting forward on a gender equality measures. Is this good or bad for gender equality? And that's also something you could put in place, that every law you're passing in parliament has to be measured. How is this going towards gender equality?
Thank you, Rasmus. Kathrine?
Yes, I think if you sit down and you list all the reasons why in Bhutan women may have not have the same access as in Denmark to politics, you will also find all the things that we have through history how can you say, that we have wiped out, that we have like changed. For instance, as Rasmus say, it's a huge thing that we have daycare, that you can actually hand over your kids to a trained pedagogue and then go to work happily. I'm a little shocked about this civil servant thing. I have to go back to that, but there could be. I'm just guessing that if many women are employed in civil service, then that is a structural problem for women even. So maybe you could also, working as a female politician in Bhutan, sit down and just do the list. What needs to be changed for women to actually access politics? As I started out by saying, there's still a glass ceiling, and we still have only 33% representation in parliament. And sometimes it's even worse when you look at it locally. I think Rasmus has a very huge point in this thing, that it has to do with how you practically plan your everyday life. Like when do you tuck in the kids? You tuck in the kids at the same time that every political party in Denmark has a meeting in the evening. So all children's family or families with young children, they don't have the time to go into politics, for instance. So there is a huge problem in Denmark as well. But I think you have to, in order to discuss this relevantly, I would have to know a bit more about the Bhutanese structural issues for women. I think you are the experts on that, and you are the ones who can actually change that.
And that's a perfect ending to our session here, because I know that you, after the break, will continue discussing that in the classroom on what you can do to break the barriers for women, particularly young women in politics in Bhutan. I think it's been a lovely session with you, and I hope that we somehow will follow your careers in politics, and that we can check in at a later stage to hear how it's going. It's been really, really wonderful to have you, Kathrine, and Rasmus with us today. Just after the 8th of March yesterday, and greetings to all of you on 8th of March. It's not only one day, but it's the whole year that we should work for gender equality, and we do wish you all the best for your political engagement. Election is one thing, but you can engage in politics in many ways. I think that's also important to say, and you can do many difference in your local area, within your community, regional, district level, and national level. So you can contribute in many ways. I think it's wonderful, and it gives me hope and inspiration to see you all young women here today. We wish you all the best, and we thank you, Rasmus and Kathrine, for contributing today, and also to contributing to the development of democracy in Denmark and globally. So thank you so much from us here in Denmark and from DIPD, and wishing you all the best.